Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another model showcase. So, what I'm going to be showing you is BMO from Adventure Time. BMO is a character which is a combination of like a Macintosh and a Game Boy. As you can see right here at the viewport, this is the model right here, complete with armatures and camera and stuff like that. So, just like the last video, this is not going to be a tutorial. It's just going to be a showcase of this model and just a general walkthrough on how I did things. Okay? Okay, so let us get started here. Alt Z to escape from X-ray mode. So here we are on the main model. It's very simple. I just used modifiers of subdivision and boolean. The boolean is for the speaker holes right here. You cannot see it right now because it's not enabled. As you can see here, they are speaker holes that are drilled into this space right here on the mesh. I did this instead of modeling it because it's a pain in the buttocks to model such things, so I just did this. And if we actually make it appear here, there we go. So I did subdivision first for Boolean because it's so much cleaner this way, and I suggest that you do too for small things like this, because even if you up the subdivision modifier levels, it'll still look clean as hell. And if you're going to do this, by the way, you should uh, use auto smooth, because look at that. That is disgusting. Look at that. It's because subdivision and boolean doesn't work well together, so I suggest doing this first, auto smooth. So you do subdivision then boolean. That's what I realized here in making this part of the mesh. So most of this is pretty basic. As you can see here, made this hole so I can place in the parts, and made this battery pack here at the back. So yeah. And what else? Let's talk about the limbs, shall we? So this is my first time working with armatures and bones, weights, automatic weights and stuff like that. And this is also why, and the reason why I chose to model BMO. It is because it's going to be an introduction for me on basic topology of limbs and organic stuff, basically. So if you have seen my art station, most of it, the 3D models that I've been working on, are hard surfaces. I have not made something organic. They're all hard surfaces, just like, Superman's cape, the Macintosh that I built, modeled rather, and the gun, and they're basically just hard model. So I just wanted to expand my skill set here and tried to work with organic stuff, make the topology here on the hand, explore, and all that good stuff. So I'm really enjoying the armature of Blender. It's really fun to work around, but sometimes the first time I made the arms and legs, it's actually high poly count. So it was subdivided so much because I thought that's how it worked. But apparently you just need to have the joints here, have them subdivided, have them have the vertices, the needed geometry, just so they can bend. That's basically it. Because I thought that's how rigging works. So before I had failing armature automatic weight painting. That's why after hours of frustration, I just decided to scrap my first limbs and just work on new ones that are very simple, just like this. So I had the armature first, then subdivided it. So as you can see here, if I go into pose mode, it is very Gucci. As you can see here, it's very responsive and it doesn't break, which is nice. The geometry is good. Good thing I only needed to change some of the weight paint because the call this the base of the limb here, the arm, was actually coming off. It was following the hand too much. And also, this is my first time with inverse kinematics. This is my first time using IK and bone constraints. It helps me so much in just rigging and posing in general. I haven't done animation just yet because I have to study more on that. But yeah, IK is amazing. Like, look at this. And for the fingers here, these are just copy rotations. If I rotate them on the x-axis, see? It's really good. Should have added more geometry here actually on um, the hand. That's why it's not bending well. It's bending the whole finger, not actually curling it. I just realized that. So yeah, that's for the limbs. Now for the buttons, they're actually just very simple geometry. They are very simple stuff. They are just beveled here. So as you can see right here, they are not subdivided or anything like that. Nothing fancy. And the holes here are just parts of the mesh that I pulled using extrude. I did not delete them or um, deleted the faces rather. So yeah. So as you can see here, I marked the seams in a way that it's continuous all around here, and it cuts down on BMO's butt. So yeah. Anything else? Here's the screen. It's just a flat plane. Well, not a flat plane. It's just a single plane with no thickness because I wanted the material to curve the face of BMO. So this this is glass, and inside it is the actual screen of BMO, the face of BMO. So it's just a flat plane right here, as you can see. And here on the back, we have the tape. I'm actually very proud of this, the tape, because actually supposed to be like this. Yeah, I screwed that up, but it's a very good part of the mesh. Not gonna lie, because uh, I'll be discussing the materials and the textures later, but this part is really fun to do, really fun to sculpt, and really fun to explore. I'll talk about it later. We'll come back to that. Don't worry. And next is the battery pack of BMO. So I just took a part of the mesh of BMO and um, and extruded it out and made its own parent, and just I made its own object by selection, and voila, just um, extruded the edges here. It's actually just a single plane with no thickness, so I can just add solidify modifier here and then subdivision. So yeah, actually, this doesn't exist on the actual BMO. Okay, this doesn't actually exist. So on the BMO's bottom part is actually a VHS tape player, and I actually wanted to copy that. However, I just wanted to have this more realistic version of BMO because I thought like he has a DVD player here. Why does he need a VHS tape player? you know? But I think, the show has its own reasons, but I would rather have it like this because I wanted a little bit of exploration and iteration of my own. That's why this is my own iteration of BMO. And actually, speaking of own iteration and versions of of models, this is actually not accurate to BMO's design on the show. So this part right here, the vents, is actually supposed to be on top of here. The actual backplate of BMO doesn't have these vents right here. So yeah. But of course, as I've said, my own iteration. So it hides the motherboard and stuff like that. And this is also not accurate to BMO, to the actual show. So this is not accurate. I'm gonna show a picture right about here. As you can see, it's actually just a backplate. And if you actually see the episode where they open up BMO, he has a mechanical heart, okay, a golden heart, so and stuff like that. So yeah, I modeled the fan here. I put a lot of effort here, but it didn't show in my renders. I wanted to show it, but I actually forgot to what do you call this, render these parts to showcase them more. But I published them already at my ArtStation, link down below. So it's too late to apologize. So yeah, so I actually copied the actual PC. If you look into your actual PC, there's this fan here, these metal fins to cool down the CPU, and this 24-pin ATX power. And I don't know what this is, but it's a heat sink. It's a heat sink. It says here it's a RAM, but it's actually a heat sink because I was actually thinking of RAM sticks here, but I just had it for uh, heat sink. So yeah, I shouldn't have done this because it took a lot of time and effort, and it's not actually going to show that much in the actual renders, but whatevs. So here's the motherboard. So I have, if you can see right here on the right, subdivision and displays. So what I wanted here was an actual motherboard because I was supposed to show this on the renders on the ArtStation, but I forgot to render them. But as you can see here, if I subdivided it and then displace it, there will be actual geometry here. So if we isolate this and up the viewport subdivision, as you can see, there's a lot of stuff to be seen here. So if we go to rendered view, it's pitch black. Let's light it up, up. Yeah, there we go. So in this place, it actually makes the they call that the geometry. It adds more geometry. What? No, actually, that scratch that. It doesn't actually make geometry. It displaces the geometry. Okay, and here and the subdivision that makes the geometry to be displaced. That's why it's subdivision first, then displace. So as you can see here, it's supposed to be like that. And if you don't isolate it, there we go. Now the background, there we go. It's supposed to be like that. So you can see the fan and the heatsink and the 24 pin ATX kind of jigamajigs, jigamajang. So yeah, I think that's about it for the modeling. Let's go to the texturing and the materials now. So I'm gonna split this window. So let's go to, nope, that's not it, to shader editor. And here's the normal shader setup using the uh, non-color data or the um, surface, what do they call those? Kind of forgot what they're called, but PBR maps. I think that's what they're called. So you can just have the color here and attach it to the metallic. So even if it's colored yellow here for color, you can just set it to non-color and actually put it into the socket itself. So it will be black and white. Okay, it will be red as that. 1 to 0 values like that. If you didn't know, of course, I'm just explaining how I understand these. And yeah, of course, math nodes for added complexity. Not really complexity. I'm just tweaking it for my own liking and aesthetic purposes. And these ones are just normal uh call this materials, nothing really fancy. But here, however, I actually randomized this. So for every object that has this material, it will actually be randomized. As you can see right here, we have a color ramp and object info, we have random. And insert it to the factor, and it will randomize between these four colors, which is really nice. By the way, if you want to have uh, linear colors, go for constant, not for linear B-spline. Don't go for that. Go for constant. A little trick that I've learned from tutorials, which is nice. And for this one, the tape, yes, of course. So let's isolate that and light it up, light it up. So here, as you can see here, it's actually not covering the whole tape or the whole topology here. That's because the tape is surrounded by transparency or alpha. So for that to work, because if you don't have this kind of node setup, the alpha will show up as black, not as transparent stuff. So go for mix shader and transparent BSDF right here and the Uber, and get the alpha value here and just go for a factor, and voila, it will actually separate out those two values, the alpha and the actual colors. And there we go. Transparent, then principled. Really good stuff. So let's not isolate that. I'm just going to kill the, oops, that's not what I wanted. There we go. So it will load faster. So yeah, it's really good looking. By the way, this is actually sculpted, okay? So as you can see here, there are tons of geometry here that I can play with. And I should have subdivided it with the subdivision modifier, not actually, with the right click here. I shouldn't have done that. I should have just added subdivision modifier because this is too much geometry to play with. But we all have our regrets in life. So yeah, let's get this back here. And for the back plate, it's just the same node setup for just like this, the main BMO part. Let's get on with that. Let's go to textured loading. All right. So it's the same node setup as BMO's main body, but I decided to make its own material because this one is too small. Okay, so I added mapping and texture coordinate and tweaked a bit on the X and Y scale. So yeah, so for BMO's texture, I cannot find an actual font for BMO, so I just had a default font. I don't know what's it called, but it's B something, Brehauser. I don't know what's it called, but it's a default font. You can find it anywhere. But yeah, used a stencil for this, a white stencil, and just painted on there. And also for this one, I made this in Photoshop right here. Player 1, player 2. And for the node setup for this guy, I added some scratches and surface imperfections because, BMO is a console and he's being played around with by Finn and Jake. So you just have to have that, and he goes on with the adventures and stuff. That's why I think he should have, this kind of surface imperfections, as you can see right here. And for the limbs, it's just this, I actually did not think about surface imperfections for the limbs. It either slipped my mind or I didn't want to do it. I don't know. I kind of forgot. But yeah, it's actually just pretty clean stuff for the hands and limbs. And for the buttons here, as you can see, there are actually they call this texture weirdness, or there are weird stuff going on here. I don't know why, but I think I know the reason here. Even though it doesn't show up in the rendered view mode and in the actual renders, it shows up here in the textured view. I think it's because let's go to image editor here and BMO buttons texture. As you can see here, it's actually a light map. Okay, it has been UV extracted as a light map instead of UV extracting it the normal way, the smart UV project, or having seams. I was pretty lazy, so I just used the light map pack. So yeah, so far I think it only shows up in the textured view mode, and if you zoom in close it disappears. So I did not really um, have a concern about it. It doesn't show in the rendered view and stuff like that, so I don't care. And for the bottom here, just a normal wood texture, just to showcase that he is in the treehouse or something. So yeah, that's about it for BMO, my man. So if you like this video, comment down below on what you think I should improve on, and like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. And check out my art station down below. And that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.